Hello and welcome in, everyone. I'm Max Curry, the Screenings and Events Manager at the PGA, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this Q&A today with the producing team behind The Daily Show. Joining us today is executive producer and showrunner Jennifer Flans, co-executive producer and segment director Ramin Hediyati, supervising producer Max Browning, supervising producer Elise Terrell, and producer Jeff Gousseau. Leading today's conversation is Claudia Puig, an accomplished writer and journalist. Claudia is president of the Los Angeles Film Critics Association and a commentator for the National Public Radio. Before we get started, we'd like to thank Comedy Central for making today possible. Good afternoon, Claudia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Max, and thank you to this wonderful producing team. Very excited to get to talk with you guys. And first off, congratulations. I know that the ratings have been really great lately. So
thank you. Yeah, we're excited that people are watching.
Absolutely. So yeah, your show has really sort of reestablished itself as a must-watch. I hear that those are the highest ratings since 2015. Jennifer, is that right?
It's true. Yeah, our linear ratings are just doing gangbusters. I won't speak on social because I know Ramin has all the stats on that, but like social, digital, or linear, it's just really breathed all the new life into the show, having John back, and then also having all of our news team at the desk. I think just the format change is exciting for people as well.
Well, let's jump into that, Ramin. I saw that your show has an audience of over 47 million across social media accounts. You want to tell us a little bit more about how all that works? Because things are very different now than when the Daily Show was first landed with us. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry about that. When John left, we were in a much different place, I'd say, on social, and we are really just everywhere now, and we see social as a way to interact with our fans at all hours of the day, not just at 11 o'clock. And so, it's repackaging the show, but it's also, having a dialogue with our fans. Sorry, allergies. At all hours of the day in many different forms, and in many different ways.
You guys create new content specific for social, that plays better on digital. It's actually been a really fun challenge, I would say, in the last 10 years of the show since John left, to be able to figure out what will play best in which arena and how to we do so many different types of things at the show now, that and social and digital is such a big part in what's going to play best on Twitter and what's better on TikTok, and what's something we would just want to put on YouTube, or is it something that is better saved for the linear program? So
right.
That's just like a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, we really see it as a way to kind of expand the voice of the show beyond what the host can say, so it can be in the form of a tweet, it can be in the form of a physical activation that we do in the world, where people can kind of come and look and see and touch and feel, content that we've created.
I want to ask you more about those. And I also want to encourage Max, Jeff, and Elise to jump in. Feel free, anybody who wants to add something. It doesn't have to be one person formally speaking. So.
Oh, good. We cut each other off all the time.
Good.
We've been
like that.
For a very long
don't
time.
need the encouragement.
Okay, free for all. It's all good.
Great.
I would just say, just to button up that, like, I work at the show, and I mean, at least once a week, I'm texting Ramin, I can't believe what you guys did on social. It's funny. Yeah. It's like always fun where you're like, we're in these rooms, we're all working at like 7 shows at once. And then when we watch what each other's department does, it's like, wow, that's really good. And it's a crazy feeling to have with somebody that you literally see all day long, and then you watch what comes out of it. It's just, there's so many different avenues, and it makes it fun where you're like, wow, that was such a good way to do it. I never would have thought of it that way.
Yeah, it seems like it's so much less linear, and it's just like a lot of things happening all at once, which must make it challenging as well as fun.
It certainly does. It is a challenge, but it's really, this team, the people on this particular Zoom have been at the show since John was at the show the first time. And so
Wow.
we have all gotten to know each other's working habits. We've brought a lot of wonderful new people on board and creative voices. But because we've been together for so long, we're able to really play off of each other and help each other. There's sometimes that, we'll have people working on the podcast, or we'll have people, people that worked on a field piece will go and do the podcast to talk about that field piece. And it's just such a great collaborative environment that everybody is part of making all of the parts of the show.
That sounds fantastic. So let's talk about that transition with Jon Stewart, and also you have Jordan Klepper Tuesdays through Thursdays, correct?
Actually, it's rotating. So
okay.
Yeah, so some weeks it's Jordan, some weeks it's Desi, sometimes
Oh,
Ronnie,
great.
sometimes Michael Costa, and sometimes we decide to change it up and we do co-hosts.
I love that.
So we
Okay.
did a week where Michael and Desi hosted together, and we really it's more like our senior news team that's been there for a while will rotate through the desk, which is so nice because it's really fun to do headlines through so many different points of view. So even if we touch on Christine Ohm shooting her puppy one week, with one day with John, say, Desi doing it, there may be a completely different way to do that with that same headline with different jokes with Desi. So if the story keeps evolving, it's actually been a really exciting time at the show to be able to present these things, not only in different ways on different platforms, in the field, in a guest segment, in a headline, but also add another layer on top of that you can do it through different voices at the with the authority of the desk. So we have multiple hosts at this point, and each one of them brings so many different things to the desk.
So do you foresee it kind of continuing that way with John on Mondays, and have the different hosts into sort of the foreseeable future, or is this up to the election? How do you kind of look forward?
Currently it's through the election. I can say that I think it's a success right now, and I'd love to keep it going. I think all of us, prior to the plan being laid out publicly, have talked about this in different iterations over the last 2 years since Trevor left. The guest host era really gave us a sense of oh wow, it could be really fun to do the Daily Show through a bunch of different voices and keep the viewer engaged in different ways. And then we all kind of looked inward and why wouldn't we did have some great talent on with our guest hosts, but some of the best talent we know to cover this kind of news parody show are the people that already work here. So how do we do that, and how do we display that? And I think the ratings have shown it's a success, and the fans seem to really like it. And nobody, I think initially the fear was well, isn't a late night show just hosted by one person, and doesn't it need to be this one identity? And it's kind of well, maybe it doesn't. Let's give it a shot. And it seems like the viewers are not confused and they like it. Daily Show as a brand has a very specific point of view.
Yeah.
And then funneling, all of our hosts' points of view through the Daily Show filter does seem to be working and being at least a consistent enough arch for the viewers to grab onto. I would say as a producer and writer, the challenge, and also having been here for over 27 years, this is a challenge, and it's just I feel all of us just keep leveling up. We're all right, bring it, we were all mentored under John, learned so much, and okay, let's get Trevor in here, and what a great show we made with him. And then what's the next challenge? Okay, let's try that. Let's do guest hosts. Now it's all right, let's really not give ourselves any time to sleep and just change the list every day. So it has really been like Elise said, we've been together for a very long time, and we have such a shorthand with each other that it allows us to be able to play and really evolve the show.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it allows the viewers to evolve too, because we've all gotten very used to one host, and while someone's gone, they'd have a guest host, or going back to Johnny Carson or something.
Yeah.
But why does it have to be that way? No, it's not decreed any place. Yeah. So
exactly, I feel we were internally we kept talking about it and challenging it, but doesn't. are people really going to be that confused? Like, and it's kind of, I think it's been really exciting to see it work out, and the viewers do like. And I think Ramin sees that on social, just like our Instagram grid with so many different faces now instead of just
It's almost
one
hard to imagine it going back to just one face, or
Mm.
like it feels like we've crossed this line, this Rubicon, and now it's like we're in this new place and we can't go back. And it's really fun.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting.
I think I was gonna say, like, it's so amazing that the audience likes it, but selfishly, like, this is the most fun I've ever had at the show, and I think I speak for all of us. We've all been here for a while. Like, how lucky are we to come in with a new challenge at the same place and try a new thing and expand what late night's supposed to be, and just like have fun and like have all these voices that now have the outlets. Like Jen was saying, like, just because the story is the same, there are so many different angles and perspectives to it, and we have the ability from a Monday to a Tuesday through the rest of the week to just find every way to dissect it and reach our audience. I think it's selfishly the most fun I think we've ever had at the show.
And I think when you guys have fun, it translates to the audience.
That is our mantra in the house. If we're having fun, they'll have fun.
And we're having fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that
And
makes
you
a
can
lot of
see it like immediately in those social comments. You can like every night you can we used to like, going back to the John era, you used to have to wait until like an article came out about the show or something to get that feedback. And now you really see the energy immediately coming through that audience response, which is really cool.
And I
Absolutely.
think,
Oh, go on.
I was going to say, I think they're responding a lot to the fun that you're seeing on the screen between the correspondents. Now that you get to have them, 2 or 3 correspondents doing a chat all together with someone at the desk, you get to really see them interact, and like you see them fun and playing with one another, and them having a legitimate good time. And I think that translates to the audience at home.
Yeah, and they
not
all
only
like
that-
have worked together for a long time and respect each other so much that. Oh, sorry, E. Go.
No, go ahead.
No, I just that you are seeing like actual like friendship and respect, and I think that always translates to the audience.
The other thing that's really interesting about having them at the desk is that the audience gets to know the correspondents so much better, and they get to know their point of view so much better. It's not just them as the other person in a chat with John or the person that's out in the field with, doing an interview. You're getting to hear their point of view so much more intimately. And it's building such a rapport with our audience and with the correspondents that it really allows us to have fun with them and with their voices. And it's been a really exciting time.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I know a lot of times when I would watch it, I'd go, oh, yeah, there's that correspondent. I like that person. But then, you'd have the snippet and then they're gone. So this way you get to find out more about them as a viewer.
We've also brought in some new talent in the past few months, Josh Johnson, Troy Iwata, and Grace Kuhlenschmidt. And bringing their voices has been so much fun, because it's been a while since we've had new people to interact with on a regular basis, and getting to know them, getting to know the audience, and just their unique perspectives. It's just, we have so many different points of view that we get to see the world through now. And it's just been a really, really exciting, fun time to explore the changing social and political landscape.
And that makes perfect sense for the audience. As our world gets more diverse, you want to have all those diverse viewpoints. So that's that's great.
They also speak that language of digital too, I would say too, like having these young voices, like they almost were like raised on TikTok and Instagram, and so they know how to reach those audience in different ways, and it's really cool to like play with their voices in those spaces.
Yeah, I mean, we found Grace on Instagram.
Wow.
Like I was just a fan, so we started, a few of us that do the casting on the show just started watching her, and they like, some of them are really entrenched in that world, and it's fun, especially for Ramin's team, to work with them, because they really have such a feel for that medium and what will work on there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how did the Jon Stewart return happen? Was that his idea? Was that your idea? Was that a joint idea? Was it always planned? Was it because of Trevor? Was it Trevor's idea? Whose idea?
It was not always planned. I would say that you know, it's been quite a roller coaster at the Daily Show since COVID, right? Like COVID, and then we didn't have an audience for a while, and then Trevor was, you know, left, and
Oh, yeah.
and we got the show up and running real quick because like I said, we have a shorthand and we have such a tight process that we were able to apply that to these different guest hosts. And then, you know, we were very lucky. Chris McCarthy talked to James Baby Doll Dixon, who is John's manager and kind of like, I like to call him the king of late night. He reps so many people, but they, you know, unbeknownst to any of us, made a deal for John to come back. But I won't say that it wasn't, you know, like obviously when John's Apple show ended and we had a desk open, it's not like about, you know, we all kept in touch with John this whole time. So it's not like it wasn't something that we've all been like, it's what would that be like, you know, paired with the fact, like I said, you know, when we all went through the guest host year and our own news team just did so well, you know, we really did talk about, and having seen somebody else at the desk each week, and that was exciting for the audience, we were like, is there something to this rotating thing? And, you know, that the narrative in late night being, you know, there's not enough voices and different voices in late night. And we're like, what if we just did so many of the voices here? You know, like what if we just have a lot of voices here? And also, you know, there's a considerable amount of burnout doing a show that many nights a week, right? And the added pressure mentally and just carrying the weight of a show, especially like the Daily Show, where you're saying political things. It's a very heavy load to bear. And I'm sure John or Trevor, anybody who's done the show full time, would tell you it's probably really nice to share that burden with other faces. And I do, you know, having talked to the correspondents about it a lot at this point, they all really like being able to share the burden of it. And also it gives them time. Listen, like, you know, everybody after COVID is mental health and, you know, making sure you have quality of life outside of the workplace and things. And this gives all of them a chance to like still be with their families and also like go out and shoot a special if we still need, you know, if we want, you know, say Jordan goes to shoot a special, so he's not at the desk that week. You know, it really gives them all a lot of like, Ronnie can still go do a movie, you know, here and there, and we'll still, the show isn't crippled by somebody. You know, I remember back in the day, like John got a stomach virus. There was a time he was like coming in, throwing up in a bucket next to the desk. You know, like you can't take a day off.
Yeah.
So
everything hinges on you. Yeah.
It all hinges on you. If you
Yeah.
decide you don't want to do it anymore, does everyone lose their job? You know, there's
Yeah.
so much pressure there.
Yeah.
And sorry to monopolize this, but I really do. I do love the aspect of it that is, you know, just I think it's a healthier thing for everybody mentally.
Yeah.
To handle.
More collaborative, I would think.
Much
Yeah.
more collaborative, and it's the great thing is that we don't have like a diva at the show. You know, like they're all really really nice, and John included. You know, like when he came back, he's like, I just want to be a part of the team. Like, don't call it the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. You know, it's the Daily Show, and.
Yeah.
You know, trust me, there was like well, but you're here and you're John, like, isn't it now? And he's like, no way, dude. Like, it's the Daily Show. It was the Daily Show after me. It was the Daily Show with all the guest hosts, and it's the Daily Show and we're all sitting at the desk. So like, let's just, and I love that about him. And I love that about the show. And that, you know, I think that says a lot about talent in general, because I think that, you know, that can get caught up. Like, well, it doesn't have a name. You know, it's like, they really like, are all very, very kind and collaborative people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that also trickles down to the staff, that vibe and ethos. I mean, especially with these people on the call, like we've all worked together. We've all been here for a while and we've all worked together in different capacities. And now we're lucky and fortunate to be able to be a part of the shaping of the show. But for example, Jeff and I don't work in the same department. Jeff is giving me ideas for pieces to work on, to pitch. We're working on it together. We're constantly collaborating with one another in a way where it's one of the most fun, creative environments you'll ever be a part of, because if the hosts don't have egos, the staff can't have egos. And it really just makes the whole process, it takes down all these walls that I think affect the creative process in many settings like this. We just don't have them. We don't have to break them because they don't exist.
I like that.
It's really the best idea wins, you know, or not. I don't even want to say
Rises
wins.
to the
It's not a
top,
competition,
yeah.
but
makes
it's like
it fair. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
elevated, you know, and that idea can come from anywhere. And like Max said, those walls don't exist.
And
I
that
think
idea is,
also, oh, sorry, Guska.
I was gonna say that idea is molded, like it doesn't necessarily win because it's molded by 5 or 6 or 10 people. Like it's not, you know, it's a gem of an idea, but it doesn't necessarily like the finished product. It goes through so many iterations by the end of it that so many people have a hand in
Yeah.
and making it what it actually is. So everyone can sort of, I don't want to use the term ownership because like, you know, it's for the show. No one owns the thing, but like so many people get to say, I had a part of making that.
Right. I built on this. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a Slack channel that we call Little Pieces of Big Ideas. And we just like I don't really know what the pitch is here, but like, what if we did something on this? And then everybody just like
Somebody
add, you know,
runs
a
with
lot
it.
of add. How do we make this better? How do we make it funny? You know, and you know, and that's the same as what happens in our morning meetings and things like that. But that's the general vibe around the place is like, how are we all elevating that one idea that made all of us laugh?
Right.
That's how great ideas happen. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about all of you here and how you got your start at the Daily Show and how your role has evolved. Because we're talking about John, I'd love to know specifically, and I'll start with Max because you're on the left of my screen.
I'll give you my answer, and it's going to be the exact same. And I think we're all smiling. Our career started because Jen Flans hired us. Most of us as interns, PAs, Ramin came in as a producer, but all of our career started because Jen saw something in us when we were in our young 20s and helped nurture us along the way where we're here now.
I was only like a year older, okay? I'm the oldest.
Yeah, I mean, like I would get in depth in mine, except it's so similar to the rest of the people on here is that we were lucky enough that Jen saw something in us and we've been able to rise the ranks creatively because of the nurturing that the show has provided and the outlets it's provided to help us find what we do. I don't think any of us decided at 22 years old that like, hey, I'm going to be a supervising producer in the Daily Show. We would never have been able to like think that big, but this show has incubated so much talent that you've seen go to other shows, movies, front of camera across the industry, but it's done the same behind the camera in so many ways.
That is really interesting. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that. So that's fascinating. Elise, what about you?
Well, yeah, like Max said, I started as an intern and then a PA. And the thing that I didn't realize until I started working here was how much the pace of this show, getting to do a show 4 nights a week, just drove me, and I loved it so much. I loved being able to process what was going on in the world around me through my work, and where there's a lot of humor, I was able to find a lot of humor in what is going on, things that are often very frustrating or devastating in the world around us. We're able to process together as a team in a way that makes people laugh, and that is such a joy to have to do every day for so many years. I wouldn't be able to do it for this long. I've been here for almost 20 years now, and I just don't think I could do it if I didn't feel like I was giving something back and enjoying the people that I was doing it with every single day, and feeling we're making something that is important in the world, that people talk about, that people must tune in for. You know, you very rarely go anywhere and tell someone that you work at the Daily Show and they're not blown away. And so it's just been such a wonderful experience to have, you know, so many years together at this show.
It sounds so therapeutic too, to be able to process things and laugh. I mean, it's therapeutic for us watching. I know I literally looked during the pandemic, I would tune in and just feel like it was therapy. I just wanted to finish the day laughing. And it was like, okay, that's how I want to go to sleep, you know? So right. I can only imagine you guys get to do this, you know, 10 hours a day. I don't know how many hours you put in, probably more than the usual.
How many hours are there in a day? Yeah. No. But you know, the other thing is that, and I not to speak for my colleagues here, but a lot of us have had the opportunity to work in various departments at the show. So many of us started or some of us started in production. But now I jointly manage the team that does all of these scripted and unscripted packages that you see on the show. So anything out in the world or any sketches that we do. But we've all sort of bounced around and had different experiences at the show, but it's allowed us to really understand how everybody else functions and how each department works. And it allows us to really work together as an integrated team.
Yeah, that's great. Learning how it all functions together.
Yeah.
Okay, Ramin, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I can add there, but you know, I've been in the trenches. I started in the trenches with Max and Jeff, and as a producer, and was in the field department, which we now call the packages department. I've produced podcasts at the show. And you know, I think to Jen's credit, like Max said earlier, like she has a great knack for understanding everyone's strengths and where they fit in at the show, and understanding like the whole scope of the show and seeing where all the pieces need to fit. And you know, Jen, I think, you know, I was in field and she said, you know, I think you would be really good running our digital spaces, which when Trevor was starting was this really burgeoning area of the show. And so I was able to kind of take, you know, my experience as a producer, researcher, field producer, podcast producer, and kind of put it all together. And now, you know, managing all of our digital and original content, which, you know, comprises of all of those things. So it's, yeah, I mean, thanks to Jen.
Stop! You guys are making me. Oh, well, I'll let Goose go though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Goose?
Jen hired me.
Oh, we
and,
call him Goose. Sorry.
I know, no, I remember that, so I thought I would call him Goose. I
You're
know I'm
welcome to
not
call
part
me
of it.
Goose. Everyone calls me Goose.
Everyone call him Goose.
I know. I
Uh,
said Jeff, and
When
it sounded
Ramin
so
said Jeff, I was
strange.
like, who?
I was like, who is this Jeff? I'd never said this name before.
When I introduce myself to new people and they're like, you know, I'll say I introduce myself as Jeff just because it's weird to introduce yourself as Goose. It's not a, you know, what is that, you know? So I introduce myself as
Well.
Jeff, but, you know, everyone's welcome to call me that. But yeah, so Jen hired me, you know, as an intern, and, you know, through my years at the show, it just really, you know, the challenges the show throws at you is what makes it such a great place to work. And they add such different types of pieces that you really stretch your skills at. So working on biofilms, or working on you know, music performances, or working on sketches, like, or live shows, or an election coverage, like everything is different, and the show just decides, hey, let's try this out. And you know, we've all been at the show for a long time. It has an idea of what it normally is with montages and people at the desk, but like every now and then someone will be like, hey, let's try something new, and we're all like, okay, let's try it. We may not necessarily know the best way at the beginning to do it, but we just sort of figure it out. And, you know, hitting the election year, you know, going to the conventions is a challenge. We only do it every 4 years, minus the last one. And we have to remember how to do that. We, you know, if we do live shows, that's a different challenge. We are, you know, not used to that. And so that's a thing that we have to change our processes and things like that. But it's a challenge. And I think everyone on this call and everyone at the staff really strives to, you know, live up to the moment and strive to like still make it the best show, even with all those new challenges that, you know, come up.
Well, and you mentioned the election year too, so I feel like this must be a super exciting year. Although it's also a fraught year, of course, but this is the first time it's been a fraught year.
Yeah.
So how is this year different, and how do you approach your jobs differently during an election year?
Well, even though we're fast paced every year and there's a lot of news every year, I mean, an election year is just, that's like our bread and butter, right? Like that's
On
what
steroids.
we're
Yeah,
on.
right.
Like, yeah, we
Yeah.
just are, and it's exciting. We're making characters of the candidates, their potential VP picks, their campaign managers, you know, whatever storylines they're tied up in, any third party candidates. Like these are all characters for our audience. So if you think of it like it's a, you know, a sitcom or, you know, drama, what you're making these characters for the audience so that they're built out, and you have jokes that become runners about those people. It's just it's really fun. Sometimes in a non-election year you really struggle to like find like the most, on this show, which is like political news parody, like is like Cory Booker somebody that's showing up a lot, does our audience, like, let's try and, and you don't really always know who the character is gonna be, like, in a non-election year. You're not sure where those storylines are going to come from. Whereas in an election year, but there's so much news coming at you all the time that it really provides that for us. And of course, like Goose was saying, we have all these challenges during an election year, but like we've been going to the conventions, the DNC and the RNC since 2000. That was, a big John thing right when he got there. Let's make the show political, and we had gone to the conventions in 2000 and every convention since, except for the obvious 2020 when everybody was home, and we reported on the conventions from our apartments, but it really is like we got a lot to do in an election year, and even this election might seem like kind of boring for people because we've seen these candidates before. Biden's an incumbent, Trump's obviously a former president, and there's so much around both of them. And God, are there any jokes you can make that haven't been made about either? But we're finding them.
Yeah.
There's RFK had a brain worm, and like that's new. So
that this itself right there, I would think.
Exactly. So there's always something, and the election really does provide us. And I think beyond us having so much material, it also, our audience is very politically engaged, so they're juiced up. They want to hear our takes. They want to hear what the stories are that the show is going to tell. So I think the audience is even more interested than normal.
It's
So that's
also
One of the
this is something-
advantages
sorry.
we have. Sorry, Elise, did you?
Nope, go.
I say one of the advantages we have as a team too is that we know each other. Obviously, we've all been at the show for a long time. We've been going to these conventions for a long time. We've been steeped in the content for so long, so we can see patterns that have emerged over the last 20 years in the news and, with certain characters. And, when we go to the RNC and the DNC, we can look back at previous conventions and notice things that are the same, that are different, themes, messaging, all these kinds of things that I think really give us and our team and our show a bit of a leg up when we're covering these things. Just that experience alone.
Yeah, having that experience and having been there for as long as you have, those patterns emerge and motifs and things. I would think that rather than if you had a whole new team that was just kind of,
Right.
Let's see, Elise and Max, I think you both were about
I was just quickly going to say that, this is our first election cycle back with John, and it's very exciting to have his voice again, leading the charge. And, like Jen was saying, we will once again be at both the RNC and the DNC conventions, and we will be out on the convention floor, and we will, or as close as they'll let us. No, we'll be there, and we're very excited for that. And it's just like, we are getting to tell this is what we do. This is what John does. And we are excited to do it better than ever because this year just calls for that kind of passion.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just add to that, I think the thing that makes it so much fun and the thing that I think the audience expects of us and that makes this year, like this is our playoff season almost, like, and it's the news stories for everybody are going to be the same. Like the debate will be the debate, but the Daily Show will give you a perspective on something that you can't get anywhere else. I think it's John's bread and butter that he's soaked into the ethos of the show is how do you take an event that everybody's covering and package it in a way that gives perspective to the audience that they can't get anywhere else. And I think like you can see the smiles in all of our faces when you talk about the election because like it's go time. And it's just the fact that we get to do it. It's just like, it's like a blessing, especially with John back here and all the co-hosts that are in the chair giving their perspective. It's just, it literally is fun to walk, like Jen said, you're like, oh my, like to get something the level of brainworm midweek, you're like, this isn't real life. We don't deserve this.
You guys do have the funnest jobs, bar none. I'm sure it's very challenging, and it can be it's the everydayness of it, but you guys are amazing. we've run out of time, unfortunately. I feel like I could ask you a million more things, but thank you so much, Jen, Ramin, Max, Elise, Goose.
Goose.
Did I get to say
Really
it?
renamed him.
They'll never shake
I
it.
love it. Never. Claudia, thank you so much, and thanks for
Thank
having us.
you.
Thank
know,
you.
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Great.
it.
My pleasure.